A Vermont police sergeant used a painful arm-twisting technique to force a peaceful protester off the floor during a sit-in. She sued. The Supreme Court just said he cannot be held personally responsible. The decision highlights a growing tension on the court. How much protection should police officers get from lawsuits, and at what cost to people injured by their actions? Nine Robes uses non-partisan, everyday language to focus on the facts of what the Supreme Court is saying. Here, you'll find clear, concise summaries of every Supreme Court opinion, stripped of legalese and clickbait headlines. Each post breaks down the facts, explains the court's reasoning, and highlights the crucial details that often go unnoticed. It's not just about what the court decided. It's about why those decisions matter, to give you a deeper understanding of the cases that define our nation's legal landscape. These summaries are generated by AI. Be careful and consult reputable sources when in doubt. During a sit-in at the Vermont State Capitol, Sergeant Jacob Zorn used a rear wrist lock. It's a technique that bends the arm to cause pain and force compliance. Sergeant Zorn used it to lift protester Sheila Linton off the floor. Linton was not fighting back or being aggressive. She was simply refusing to move. Linton sued Zorn personally for violating her constitutional rights. The case hinged on a legal shield called qualified immunity. This doctrine protects government officials from personal lawsuits unless they violated a right that was already clearly established by prior court decisions. The question was simple. At the time Zorn acted, was it already obvious from existing court rulings that what he did was unconstitutional? The Supreme Court said no, because the law was not clearly established, Zorn was protected. The unsigned majority opinion focused on whether an earlier case called Amnesty America v. West Hartford was specific enough to warn Zorn that his actions were illegal. The court said it was not, for three reasons. First, Amnesty America involved much more aggressive conduct. Officers were ramming protesters' heads and throwing them. Second, that case never actually ruled officers violated the law. It sent the case to a jury to decide. Third, Amnesty America itself referenced another case that actually approved of officers warning protesters and then using wrist locks to move them. The court emphasized that Zorn gave repeated warnings before using the wrist lock. Because of these differences, the majority concluded Zorn could not have known his conduct was clearly illegal. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justices Alina Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, disagreed sharply. She argued the majority got the facts wrong. According to the record, Zorn did not warn Linton before grabbing her arm. He only asked her to stand after he had already started twisting it. Sotomayor also said the majority misread Amnesty America. That case did discuss rear wrist locks on passive protesters as a practice that could amount to excessive force. That should have been enough to put Zorn on notice, she argued. More broadly, Sotomayor raised an alarm about a pattern she sees on the current court. It quickly steps in to protect officers from lawsuits, but rarely intervenes when courts wrongly let officers off the hook. This imbalance, she warned, is turning qualified immunity into something closer to absolute protection from accountability. The tension in this case reflects a real problem in how courts handle police lawsuits. The Fourth Amendment requires courts to weigh the full picture when deciding if force was reasonable. How serious was the situation? Was the person a threat? Were they resisting? That is flexible, case-by-case analysis. Qualified immunity asks something much narrower. Was it already beyond debate, based on prior rulings, that this exact conduct was unconstitutional? The higher that bar, the harder it becomes to win a lawsuit against an officer. Here is the practical problem. No two situations are exactly alike. If a prior case involving wrist locks on passive protesters alongside head ramming is not specific enough to clearly establish that wrist locks alone are unconstitutional, then every slightly different scenario essentially needs its own court ruling before an officer can be held liable. That means the body of clearly established law can almost never grow fast enough to keep up with real-world situations. The core debate on the current court is how qualified immunity protects officers making difficult decisions in the moment. Decisions shouldn't create an unworkable barrier that shields misconduct from accountability. Tension exists between giving officers immunity and keeping them accountable, raising questions about where the line should be drawn. The answer you give depends on how you weigh those competing concerns. The court's 6-justice majority and 3-justice dissent clearly weigh them very differently. Find us online at 9robes.ai. That's the number, 9robes.ai. Like and share this podcast with friends that like to be informed. 9 Robes provides AI summaries of U.S. Supreme Court cases. AI makes mistakes. People make mistakes too. We genuinely do our best to provide you with the most accurate summaries, but our best sometimes includes errors.